Welcome everyone to another episode of the world's greatest news and reviews.
Giving you opinions about nerd stuff is our superpower.
I'm Captain Mal.
I am a hailstorm.
I'm Weapon 2. Pew, pew, pew.
Oh,
Wow, that was short and
good.
sweet. I liked it.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the world's greatest news and reviews. We're going to be bringing you another in our series of classic movie reviews. Today, we're going to be talking about Willow. So, Willow was actually a fan requested on the Facebook page movie for us to review. And a little thing real quick before we get started. Turns out I've never seen this fucking movie. I thought I have seen it.
That's a travesty.
Like I knew of it and I knew who was in it. And
let's give credit to the person who
Ian Williams.
Ian Williams,
Yeah.
The world's greatest Army member. Ian Williams.
Yeah, thanks Ian for suggesting this. And yeah, I thought that I had seen this, but it turns out I have not. So it just kind of bled together in my brain of like 80s fantasy movies along with like Legend and Labyrinth and all that.
Yeah.
Legend I know very well. Like that was my favorite of all of these. I thought I'd seen this. As I was watching this, there was so much that I was like, guess I've never seen this fucking movie. So we'll get to my thoughts here in a minute. We should say spoiler alert, I guess, if you've never seen Willow. This movie came out in the 80s. We're going to spoil some shit. But Weapon 2, let's start with you. What do you think of Willow?
Willow was kind of a fun little adventure type movie. It's kind of, I guess you can say it's a little bit kind of dated the way kind of the feel of it is.
More in a little bit.
It's
Bite both of your tongues.
it's funny. It's funny. You have a character called Mad Mardigan. Is that his name? Mad Mardigan. They can't say his name without putting Mad in front of it. He can't just be Mardigan. He has to always be Mad Mardigan.
It's not two words. It's one word. It's Mad Mardigan.
Mad Mardigan. Mad Mardigan. Okay, I guess I know that now. And then you have the giant of the elves or the little people, the guy that looks like Benjamin Franklin. His name sounds like Bad Haircut or something. I can't remember what his name is, but he's a giant of the elves. It's an interesting movie where there's the little baby who's supposed to be able to conquer and defeat the queen. So of course in stories like that, the queen wants to kill the baby and they have to try to save it. They send it down the river to where the elves live and they have to try to get it to where it needs to be so that it can defeat the queen. Something like that, right?
Okay. Yeah, okay.
There's a prophecy that there's going to be a child born that defeats the queen, and so they decide that they will kill all. I can't remember if it's all female children or just all babies.
With the mark on the arm. Remember?
Well, the mark is there, but I think they've killed all the babies.
Well, they're just killing all the babies at first, but then they're
always just trying to cover their.
But then
their
somehow
bases.
later they get more information, and what I presume is an email saying that, hey, look for this mark, and if it has this mark, that's the baby. All the other babies we killed, you don't need. But then I love it because several times in this movie they find the baby, and they're
any mark that's close to that,
or they find the baby, and it's a very specific mark.
Yes,
and it's just like, hey, this is the baby. Let's let the queen know. I'm like, really? Why don't you slit its little baby throat? Like, kill the little baby.
Queen will be the queen wanted it alive for the ritual.
Yeah.
There was the ritual, yes.
I missed that part.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right,
so there's wants it alive, follow orders.
Okay, there goes that plot hole. Okay. Hailstorms, what did you think about the Willows?
So you mentioned the movies of the 80s where we had all the fantasy like the Labyrinth, and if we're including Neverending Story, then that's my favorite out of these. But Willow, I loved Willow.
Okay, have you guys ever seen Warriors of Virtue?
No.
It's with kangaroos. You might like it.
No, I might.
In the 90s. All right, anyway. It's like this, but of the 90s. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but this was huge. I mean, wasn't this Ron Howard?
Yes, Ron Howard, yeah.
Ron Howard directed
also produced and story credit to Lucas.
Movie? It's a Disney movie, isn't it?
It might be.
I think it was Columbia TriStar.
I know, but like Disney might own it now,
I'm sure, but they own everything. So.
But yeah, but Lucas...
Talk about our overlords.
Yeah, right. Lucas has a story credit and an executive producer credit. Ron Howard has
I think they needed Lucas to get those little, you have the elves, which are small, and then you got the little tiny brownies or whatever. Is that what they were called?
Yeah.
I think they needed that. That's what Light and Magic needed to do.
Industrial Light and Magic. Yeah.
Well, and fun fact, Warwick Davis, who played Willow, he started out as a small child. Yeah, in Empire Strikes Back, he was Wicket.
Yep. So on that, I want to say, obviously the effects, like they're 80s effects, so like you could pick them apart if you want to, but I want to say
But don't be a jerk.
No, but I want to say, for the time, I bet they were pretty good because some of the effects that they were doing, like with the little fairy people, whatever they were, and like how they were imposing them on the normal sized people and all that, I was like, that doesn't look too bad. Like obviously by today's standards, sure, but I was just like, like that's serviceable, and I bet back then probably looked seamless.
This wasn't CGI. These are all different types of effects that they worked with.
Exactly, because CGI
not
wasn't
having
a thing.
CGI.
Right.
Yeah.
And so those kind of effects, like, there's kind of an argument because CGI can come off looking cartoony and not real. These kinds of effects, if they're not done right, come off just looking jarring and like looking like they're not in place right.
Well, we were more forgiving in the 80s for sure.
Right, but my point is, I bet this looks good when it came out.
Yeah.
You probably were on board with it. You're like, oh, this looks great type thing. I don't think the effects are a knock against the movie. I think it's serviceable. So I love this movie. Yeah. I know I say I love everything. That's true.
But
okay, so here's the deal, kids. As someone who's never seen this movie, nostalgias weren't a thing then. So I was looking at it through 2020 eyes, and the eyes of someone who doesn't have an emotional attachment to it. Good Lord, this is ridiculous. This is a ridiculous fucking movie. Now, here's the thing. It's the same vein of Tank Girl or The Matrix, 2 movies we've talked about already. If you have an emotional connection and nostalgia and all that kind of stuff, that makes the movie forever live on in your brain as something that's amazing. And sure, it might be. But if you come into really either of those movies blind, or any movie that's 20, 30 years old, you're going to like not be so endeared to it and pick it apart a little bit more, right? Now,
I think that's a part of any movie
exactly.
viewing.
That's anything. So I'm saying, if I had seen this as a 10-year-old kid back in the day, this would have totally been my jam. Like, at one point, freaking Val Kilmer is fighting like this weird dragon thing with like a sword, and there's magic and witches and all kinds of crazy stuff. As an adult watching
Val Kilmer was good in this movie.
Yeah, Val Kilmer, he was pretty funny.
I'm not always a Val Kilmer fan. Sometimes I hate him.
Yeah.
But I think he did a good job in this movie.
He was perfectly fine being this kind of goofy dude who... I guess it was a big surprise that he could fight at the end, because they're like, oh my God, you can fight. Like, I never...
Well, he did a lot of talking, so he had to either put up or shut up. You know what I'm saying? Here's the thing. I don't have like this nostalgia thing to this. I was like 19 when this came out, so I was probably about the age where it probably just missed me. I think if I was younger, I probably would have watched it, and if I was a little older and had kids or something, I probably would have watched it at that point. So I missed it at that time. I don't really think that I've ever watched the whole thing before, but I watched it, and I think that it's a fun adventure movie. I didn't look at it with real critical eyes about the details of the movie. I just watched it as a movie, and it seemed a little dated. It seemed, but I thought it was just a fun little fantasy adventure movie.
Yeah, I'll give it that. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
As just a regular, like, I'll never watch it again. Like, I have no desire to ever do that. But I admit, for its time, it was probably awesome. It's not a bad movie by any means for this genre.
What if somebody offered you $10 to watch it again? Would you watch it for $10?
No.
What if somebody offered you $15.75 to watch it again?
No.
Okay.
It would have been more
I have a price.
It would have been more fun to have Ian
$40?
Oh, you overshot it. I'm not that expensive.
It would have been more fun to have Ian Williams on to talk about why he wanted us to watch.
Well, it's his fault for living far away. Also,
and coronavirus, it's your fault because we don't have guests on right now.
Oh, I bet he would have insights.
Maybe he can make his. Yeah, maybe he can make us like.
That's it.
No, I'm making a pledge right now.
Yeah.
If Ian Williams ever comes on the podcast,
I was about to say
we will talk about
this.
Willow.
Yeah. That said, Ian Williams, if you're watching, and I hope you are because we're doing this review for you, if you ever are in town after the Coronas and you want to be on the show, let us know. We'll make that happen. But and since you're not going to be on the show anytime soon, sound off in the comments as to why this is a great movie. I'm not shitting on this movie. I'm not saying it's a terrible movie. I'm just saying, as someone brand new looking at it, it is totally 80s fantasy, and that's either your thing or it's not. Not so much my thing. I hold that it's not a terrible movie. It is very much an 80s fantasy movie. So... here's the thing. I could pick apart Legend the same way, but I have an emotional connection to Legend, so I'm going to be more forgiving of it because it stars friend of the show, Tom Cruise. Hey, Tom, how you doing? Give us a call. But Val Kilmer won't return any of my fucking calls. So, whatever, man.
I mean, he's not really doing anything else right now.
Yeah, I know. I feel like he could at least give us a little FaceTime.
Do you know that he met he married the woman that plays, I forget her name now, the one that keeps coming after him the whole movie, Sorsha or something like
really?
that. Yeah, they got married after this. They met during the filming of this.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Then they got divorced.
Okay, I'll talk about it off camera. There's a couple of cringy moments though that we need to talk about have not aged well for this movie. But yeah, I didn't hate it. It wasn't terrible. It was fine. It's okay. I would never, like I said, $22.95 was my price, by the way. You give me that, I'll watch.
$22.95.
You give me that, I'll watch it again.
I think one of the things that is huge when you watch a movie that you watched when you were younger, because I was, I think, 13 when this came out. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that it's like seeing the actors that used to be like Billy Barty was in this. Mm-hmm. Billy Barty, when you were in the 80s, as a kid in the 80s, was everywhere.
Even younger than the 70s, he was all around and everything.
Everywhere. Yeah. And so it was like, oh my gosh,
he was the guy who played the older wizard that he was trying to get a job with or learn from, apprenticeship from. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Warwick Davis was on everything after this or around this time. He was everywhere. Obviously a little bit later, Val Kilmer was in more things. So there's some recognition of, oh my gosh, I remember when I saw that guy in this thing. And there's a lot wrapped up in nostalgia. And I don't think you can completely discount that, because it's almost not fair to ask somebody to take that away and look at the movie.
And that's the thing, is like, I'm not even going to say you can't discount. Like, no, that is a huge driving factor in how people fondly remember and talk about movies. If you negate that, even if you're not trying to look through it with a critical eye, like I wasn't trying to be like, let's pick some part. I was just watching it like a movie. And it's just without that aspect there, it's just like, oh boy, like all I saw was like the technical flaws of the movie, which is not a good way to watch it. But that's how I do. That's just me. That's the way my brain works.
Well, and we're looking at classic movies, which obviously movie technology has changed so much, and the way we tell stories is different now.
But you can't like negate that, because to me, like, so you're watching a movie. It's supposed to be an immersive experience. I'm supposed to be transported to this place, to this world, and be there, right? Mm-hmm. So in like a modern movie, if there's bad CGI or bad acting or bad writing, any little thing that reminds me that it's a movie takes me out of the experience.
Right. And looking at a movie that was made in 1988,
every shot is
going to feel like
I'm sorry,
bad.
And again, this is not a bad movie. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm saying I could not get into it.
See, for me, there's movies that are made right now by Disney, the biggest name, who they're just kind of dumb, silly movies to me. And it doesn't matter. It's what it is. It's a silly, fun movie. They're not supposed to be some in-depth, life-changing experience or make you feel some super strong feelings. It's just supposed to be something simple to enjoy.
And I get that. And I also get that Willow, for its time, the effects and all the kind of stuff that I used were good. Right? There are modern movies, Hellboy, that are garbage by today's standards, and I would happily watch Willow over freaking Hellboy again. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Willow's actually, I will say Willow is probably a good movie, objectively. Right. It's just not for me, and I couldn't get into it. Mm-hmm. But Hellboy sucked. Can't do that, right?
Willow is clearly a movie made for like younger kids to enjoy.
It is a kids movie from the 80s. So. Had I seen it then, I don't doubt for a second this would be my jam. Yeah. But I'm 33. Ooh, boy. And didn't do it for me.
So.
So it'll be interesting to see, because we've already picked the movie that the classic movie we're going to review next. It'll be interesting to see, because it's not a movie that has special effects or anything like that. So it'll be interesting to see if you're able to enjoy it more.
Which, by the way, I don't need special effects or anything like that.
Yeah, but I know that special effects are a thing that can age a movie when you've moved past what they were at the time.
But there's the thing, I could look past, even like a modern movie, I could look past not having a good budget. If the story's good enough, if it's character driven, and I give a shit about what's happening, I could look past shitty effects all day. But if I don't, if those like fundamentals aren't there, and then you have shitty effects, well, then I'm really not paying attention. So, but yeah, Weapon 2's suggestion is, this is Spinal Tap?
Yep.
No idea what that is. I had to Google
You have
it.
no idea what it even is?
I've heard the title.
Okay.
Nothing about it. I Googled it real quick and looked at it, and I was like, well, this is going to be interesting. All right.
So have you watched any other mockumentaries by Christopher Guest?
Negative.
Okay.
So, but here's why I wanted
They're
to say.
genius, by the
They
way.
are.
But so
They're
here's
amazing.
why I want to say I'm enjoying this segment a lot.
I am too.
Because it's broadening my horizon. It's making me watch things I would never just watch on my own, which whether you like them or whether you don't, it's good to have a broad range of shit that you've seen.
I
right?
have more fun with these because when you watch a new movie and you're giving a review on it, I'm always asking, like, who is the audience for this? Because we've given away everything that's in the movie in the review. So who is watching this? Somebody that wants to watch the movie or somebody who doesn't want to watch the movie? With these classic movies, I feel like we're looking more to revisit how we felt about the movie when it first came out. And since most of them are things that people have watched, I feel like it's not a problem to be like, yeah, this is what the movie was about, and this
Right.
is our favorite part.
And I also feel like with these, you're going to get the people who are going to be watching these are the people who really, really like that movie and have a
Right.
special place in their heart, which is why I'm kind of happy we did Willow when we don't have tens of thousands of subscribers, because I'm pretty sure my opinion is going to piss a lot of people off. So as it stands, Ian Williams is going to be the only one who's mad at me. So
And I'll tell you,
and the live studio audience.
one of my absolute favorite things is, we can do this and you can see a movie and you're like, I don't know, I didn't really like that movie or wasn't that great. One of my favorite things, though, is to see a movie that I've not watched or I've scrolled past a million times or wasn't really into it and watch it and go, holy cow, I really, really enjoyed that movie and never would have thought I would have expected to enjoy it or probably watched it outside of it. Because for me, if I see a movie that I like that much that it was completely off my radar, that's a win for me. I love that feeling.
And I love it, like, when you're, like, looking around for a movie, looking, and you just randomly give something a try, and you end up loving it.
Yeah.
Finding, like, a hidden gem. I love it. And you never know. Like, you guys are rather like-minded in terms of what you consider quality. So I'm sure, like, one of these days, like, you're going to suggest some shit I've never heard of. I'm going to watch it and be like, oh, my God, that was amazing. So
I don't know, because I know for me, my favorite part about doing these classic reviews is that I like movies different from what you guys like. So it's seeing through your eyes what it's like to not have this connection to these movies. While we've been talking about doing these classic reviews, I have to say that one of the things that I thought about that I really want to happen once we are allowed to have guests is I want us to do a classic review with a guest, and I want that guest to be Kal-El.
and
Because I love how excited he gets about stuff, and I just need that because you're not.
I'm excited
You don't
about
like
things
any of
I
our
find
movies.
exciting. I'm sorry.
No, it's fair. You're being honest. But
Okay,
I
but I
need
was
somebody to
excited
like
in the Matrix
movies.
review. Was I not? I held it back. I don't know who's talking. Just random people yelling and shit.
You know
Fight.
what? I
Studio
appreciate
audience.
the opinion
Fight.
of the live studio audience.
Obviously. All right. Any closing thoughts? Nothing.
Willow's
I'm still-
a fun
It's not a bad movie.
If you got some
It's
kids,
not a
I
bad
bet
movie.
they'll love it.
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
If you have a single 33-year-old person who's never seen it before, not so much. Wow, that's a death glare.
I just am sad.
I'm somewhere in between these two on how I feel about it.
I'm not going to let you have any,
like it
any
for
good
what it
things
is.
anymore.
I'm not saying it's. I said it was a good movie. It's just not for me. It's just not.
You've seen The Princess Bride before, right?
Yes, I've seen The Princess
Okay.
Bride.
Well, if you hadn't, you weren't going to be allowed to.
Is that the one with Anne Hathaway?
What the fuck are you talking about?
You don't even know what you're talking about. Are you like joking
Did
now
you
or
really?
what?
Please
You
tell
don't
me
even
you're
know
joking.
you've never seen the movie.
Did you
have
just do that to be a joke? Okay.
Because she's in that one about
Princess Diaries.
Yes, I was joking.
This is not even a funny joke.
That was a super funny joke.
That's not funny.
Don't think that just because he says he's joking, he's being serious. I don't.
No, there
really
are
know.
people that haven't seen
I
The
have
Princess
seen
Bride.
The Princess Bride.
Okay.
By the way, though,
But I
What'd you
wouldn't
think
let
about
you
The
if you had.
Princess
no, I
Bride?
love The Princess Bride.
Okay.
But I bet if I watched it blindly now, I would think it was stupid. So,
Well,
just
you're gonna
saying.
be wrong. So
That's fair.
okay.
All right, so any closing thoughts? Next up, we're doing This is Spinal Tap, right?
That is
Yeah.
correct,
Movie
sir.
we're doing? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've never seen that either. This is going to be fun. All right, closing thoughts? No? No? All right. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the World's Greatest News and Reviews. If you've enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications.
That's right.
Peace.